Welcome back for another Mummy and Me podcast episode. I'm so glad you're here. And if this is your first time joining us, welcome. Today's episode is one that really stayed with me long after we stopped recording, and I think it will stay with you too, for all the right reasons. We're releasing this episode during Black Maternal Health Week in the UK, a week that exists because the data demands it, because lived experience demands it, and honestly, because Black women have been demanding to be heard in healthcare spaces for far too long. Black women in the UK are significantly more likely to experience complications during pregnancy and childbirth. They are more likely to lose a baby, and they are more likely to be dismissed when they raise concerns. Too often, when a loss happens, the human care simply doesn't follow them home. This week, we want to play a small part in changing that narrative, not by talking around these issues, but by centering the voices of the women living them. Our guest today is Helena Mare. Helena is a mother, she's a creator, and she's an advocate. Helena is the founder of Maila's Present, personalised storybooks for families who have experienced baby loss. She also runs writing workshops for bereaved parents and trains doulas, midwives, and healthcare professionals in bereavement support. In this conversation, Helena talks about her birthing experience, grief, and why she made the conscious choice to lead with love and carry on her daughter's legacy. Before we begin, it would be great to hear about the amazing work you do, and can you tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Josephine. It's such a pleasure to be here. So the work that I'm doing at the moment is, it started off by creating personalised storybooks for babies gone too soon, and it was inspired after my daughter died at birth when I was 36 weeks and 5 days. Well, the idea didn't come to me then. It actually came to me when I had my son, 10 months after having my daughter. And I remember getting him a personalised storybook. And when I got him that book, I started crying because I was like, I will never have this memory with my daughter. However, instantly it just clicked in my head, well, if I can't have this memory with her, I can do something where I'm still connecting with her, I'm still reading a book with her name. And I got in touch with a company and asked them, do you do books for babies who'd passed away? And I knew they were going to say no, but I just wanted to ask. And for me, it wasn't enough to just write her name in a book that didn't acknowledge the fact that she was gone. So I was like, I'll just do it myself. And that's how it started in 2024, January. Started off by doing that. And then eventually being on social media and speaking to loads of people, it's just sort of evolved to so many other things. So now I do free creative writing workshops for parents every second Saturday of the month. And parents just come together to talk about their babies, to write about their babies, for and to their babies. And it's such a beautiful health space. Like, honestly, one of my things that's really important is I don't want parents to feel heavy when they are there and when they leave, because we already feel the heaviness of loss anyway. Yeah. And so it's an opportunity to just openly speak about our children, because we don't get to. The world doesn't allow us to. We don't get to say their names. So that's what we do. And I'm also now doing bereavement training for doulas and midwives and any other healthcare professionals. Yeah. And potentially going into workspaces to talk about how do you support people after their babies die. So, yeah, and it's called Maila's Present in memory of Maila, my daughter.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then what surprised you along the way, like while writing the books? And
that's a great question. Do you mean like logistically, like the journey of setting something as big as like a company essentially, or more the emotional? Yeah,
like the emotion, because I guess you want to produce something that touches people, but you also have like a lived experience as well, and I guess like balancing that.
Yeah.
Because I know someone we previously had on the podcast was talking about how writing a book was part of their, like, they didn't realize at the time that it helped towards their healing. So I guess a bit about that.
I think for me, it became my parenting for my daughter, because I'm really big on continuing bonds. I don't see death as the end, and I'm very open about speaking about her. I'm not afraid to. And so for me, it gave me a great opportunity to bring her into my day every single day. As I'm writing these stories, I'm feeling connected to her. I get to say her name. So yeah, it really became like I'm parenting her. It doesn't feel exhausting. It doesn't feel like a drag, because if she was here, this is what I'd have to be doing, right? Yeah. So I'd have to wake up early and make sure that she's doing this, that and the other. So that's how it feels. And it also was very important to me to be connecting with people, to be working with people that understood like the story, or not understood the story, but understood the weight of what we are carrying, because I didn't illustrate the book. I went on something called Upwork, and I met she was the first person I actually spoke to when I put the job advert on. She's an incredible illustrator from Germany. Her name is Zina Sophie. And instantly we clicked. Like, she understood the spiritual side of things. She understood the importance of making sure that these babies are honoured. She understood that it's about representation. So my books are, because they are personalised, every skin tone, every hair type, and every hair colour is so important to me. Especially as we know, black and brown women are the highest numbers of women who experience baby loss. And yet when you look at literature, there's very little representation, sadly. Yeah. And so she held that incredibly. And I remember whenever she'd show me, wow, just even thinking back, this is the first time I probably had to think back on it. She had so much energy with it, and she would always bring I would say something and she would think about all these incredible different ways. The illustrations are so beautiful. And every time I had to read through it, like, I would cry, we would both cry, because we were just like, this is exactly it. Like, you've understood the assignment. Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful, because I like that. I like the idea of like when they pass away, like that's not like the last time they're mentioned. That's not the last time, I don't know, that they're spoken about, that they're remembered, that they're always remembered. And it's like, yes, there'll be pain, but there'll also be like a lot of love and beautiful memories too. Because I've heard people, I've heard people say like, my heavenly baby. So like, I have, for example, they'd say like, I have 3 children, one's 5, one's 6, and I've got a heavenly baby who would be 7, which is a beautiful way, because I guess they're still part of the family, and they're not this like, I don't know, person who's never spoken about.
And I think that's really important, because, for example, as we grow up, like, our grandparents pass away, but everyone would assume that you have a grandparent or had a grandparent for you to be
that's
here.
True.
You
That's
have
true.
a grandparent. But then when it comes to children, if you're not seeing them, then you don't think that person has that child or that child existed. So yes, I'm definitely going to say, because I went through labour, I gave birth, like, oh my gosh. Let's not denounce all of the things that I've experienced. This is my baby who deserves to be a part of my family. So yeah.
And I've heard, I heard someone else say like even though she lost her baby, she'll always be a mum.
Exactly.
And I thought that was so beautiful, because she will.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people might denounce that. I remember having a conversation with someone online, and honestly, when you go into debates online, I don't do them, but this one really me off. And the person was like saying, well, if your child is not here, you're not a mum. She wasn't talking to me. She was talking like in general consensus. And I was like, that's not how it works, because to be a mum, you're defined a mother when you're pregnant, right? And I recently made a post about like how much emphasis is made on motherhood. The whole world is always like, be a mum this, mum that. So unfortunately, sometimes the value of a woman is compared to whether she's a mother or not, which I think it shouldn't be. But all this about motherhood, and then when a baby dies, it's like, oh, forget it. Let's let it go. Don't talk about it. Like, make it make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have another question. So you sometimes talk about leading with love when talking about baby loss. Why was it important for you to center love, not just the trauma or tragedy?
That's a great question. So when I gave birth to Maila, of course, like in that moment, I was so numb and I detached. Like, I can't even describe to you how much I detached. It's like I was no longer a mum. definitely, and I was definitely not her mum, and that is not my child. That was all that was going through my head. And so when they were asking me, do you want to see your daughter? I said no. Like, it made no sense. Why would I want to see somebody who didn't make it? I failed her. My body failed. However, I joined the Facebook group, and I asked for help because, you know, I just didn't know what to do. And a mum had asked me if I took pictures with her. And I was like, why would I do that? Like, it didn't make any sense. But she just softly said to me, well, that was the best thing that I could have done. And it planted that seed in my head, and it made me realize that, hold on, like, the trauma and the tragedy is what happened to me and my daughter. She is not the trauma. She is not the tragedy. Wow,
that's so powerful.
Yeah? She is a baby. She's a child who's still deserving of love. Like, of course she is. She's an innocent baby. It's not her fault that she died. And so she shouldn't have to lose her right of being loved. I loved her when she was in my tummy. I loved her. Oh, God, I had so many incredible things that I was going to do with her. So, you know, in that moment of shock, I detached. But I'm so glad that I was able to come back to the love that started it all.
Yeah.
Know?
And did the group have like an impact in supporting you?
So because that was my first point of contact, it was literally just, I feel like in the early days you want help, but you also want to be left alone. And so I joined the group and I asked my questions, and then I was like, I'm going to be a hermit. I'm not going to speak to anyone. I'm just going to be, even the fact that I have a whole Instagram and I'm doing all of these things, I honestly do think that it's because I have had my son now, because the depths of depression that I went into after losing Maila, it took a lot to come out of that, to be very honest. And so the group was helpful in asking that question and triggering, you know, me going back to the hospital and taking pictures with Maila. And also, in fact, that's where I saw loads of mums and their babies. And I was like, oh my God, people actually do this? Like, there was a family, a black family actually. And I think that's really important because, again, what I was saying about representation and me being an Angolan, in my mind, this isn't normal. Like, bonding with my child isn't a normal thing. And seeing other black women bonding with their babies, it made me realize that actually this is normal. It's okay to do that. It's such a weird, like, brain thing to figure out. But yeah, I saw this family and they were all dressed up. It wasn't just a case of, like, you know, they're in their gown from the hospital, or maybe just some clothes that they managed to put on just to get out of bed. Because that's how I went. I was just like, let me just put this on and just go. They got dressed up. This was, you know, I am seeing my child. I am spending time with my child. This is the memory making. So that group definitely helped for that, yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, and I think it's beautiful because I think in the moment it's really hard, but then having something to look back on that's positive. So like the photo and yeah, and I completely understand the point about like representation in seeing that being done as well.
Yeah.
And it was really nice that the hospital were patient with you.
Exactly, because I mean, I was 5 days in the hospital, 5 or 7 days. I left 2 days after, that's when I wanted to see her again. So in that time, they could have, you know, anything could have happened where they've given her to the post-mortem or anything like that. In some hospitals, in some countries, and I've actually got a petition about this, in some countries you don't even get to see your baby. Like, even if you want to, they get taken away straight away. A family member who's from Brazil, her baby was stillborn in November of last year. She was not allowed to see her baby. She was not even allowed to go to her baby's funeral. And that is so heartbreaking. That is so heartbreaking. Mum has already been, the right to parent her baby in life has already been stolen from her. And now we're stealing her right to say goodbye. How inhumane. The fact that this is okay, I just can't with that.
Yeah, and to not have the choice. Because some people might choose to say, like, for their mental health, for their well-being, it's best if they don't go, and maybe they feed into like the planning instead, and the way they want to do it, but to not have that choice.
Exactly. That's what it comes down to. And that's another thing that I talk about, informed choices. So for example, yes, people might say no, but making sure that they know what they're saying no to. Because I said no to seeing Maila, and I was saying no because I thought she was going to look like a zombie. That's what was going on in my head. So had somebody had a conversation with me at that point to ask me, Helena, why? Maybe, is there a reason why you don't want to see Maila right now? Maybe, right? That could be a very evasive question, true. But that could have opened something up, a different kind of rapport. Or what I often say is letting me know the things that I could do with her. So, Helena, some parents, or just to let you know, here are some of the things that we parents often do, or that you can do with your daughter. You can take pictures, you can take videos, you can dress her, you can bathe her, you can comb her hair, you can help me to do her handprint and footprint, you can do hand castings, you can take a lock of her hair. Even if I still said no, now I know what I can do.
That's true, yeah.
And then maybe they could have said to me, well, you can take your time, you can think about it, you can say no now and maybe you can change your mind, but it's your choice.
Yeah.
That is all it takes. And yeah, it's a big difference when they're just asking you compared to telling you what is available.
Yeah.
And also, I always say this, but if you had a car accident, a massive car accident, and then somebody asked you, do you want to get back into the car? Would you want to get back?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know, so my whole thing is that my daughter's the tragedy and the trauma, and that's why we go back to love. Like, if you show me that I can still have those loving moments with her, it could have changed so much more of that time, those 5 days.
Yeah.
Imagine the things that I could have.
Because, like, a photo may have been, like, a no, but a footprint might have been a yes, or a handprint might have been a yes, or a casting, like, in the clay, like, that might have been a yes. Or for some people, like, the hair in, like a locket might have been a yes.
Exactly.
Or picking the clothes, or like, and then it might have then led to, like, the photo eventually, because it was, like, I guess, small steps to get there.
Exactly. And those are things that are so important because parents can't get this moment back. So it's so important to do it right.
Yeah.
And bereavement is not that well educated in universities. So student midwives, or even midwives who have been doing the role for a while, and if they don't have this knowledge or knowing how to phrase things, people are missing out on an experience. I mean, it's already an awful experience, but you can make it comforting. You can, you know, improve the moments that we do get to spend with our children, but we're missing out a big chunk by not speaking about it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Maila's present is a really powerful and creative way of remembering babies. How did the idea come about? So you touched a bit on it, but if you could expand a bit more. Yeah. And then if you could also talk about what it means to families when they receive one.
Yeah. So when I had my son, the thing that was really important to me, I didn't want people to now think that I've only got my son. I wanted them to know that I am a mom of 2.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't want them to start saying things like, well, see, you know, now you're blessed. Like, I was actually, someone did tell me, oh, see, God was just, you know, testing you, and now you've got your prize or whatever. And I was just like, please, what do you mean? Like, I didn't have to go through that, please. It was about making sure that Maila's stamp was, you know, still present within our, you know, family unit, so that they knew. And a great example of this is, for example, my dad, he was so looking forward to his granddaughter. He bought so many things for her. And then, you know, with the grief, it got to a point where he didn't want to talk about it, right? He just doesn't want to talk about her at all or anything like that. And then after I'd created Maila's present and I had been doing so many things, when it came to Christmas time of 2024, so Maila was born on the 29th of December, so 4 days after Christmas. And so this would have been her second year. Christmas time, my dad invited his friend and then he goes, so did you tell him that, you know, we've got Maila? Did you tell him about Maila? And I was like, what? It really threw me off because he doesn't speak about, well, he does now, but he didn't. And that's something that has been really helpful for me and my family unit to show that she is still a part of our family and it's okay to talk about her. And I'm happy that now my dad is also involved in that. So yeah, it did start with that with my son and wanting both of them to be present. And then what it means to other parents. So many parents have, said that the illustrations are incredibly magnificent. They often talk about how the words really resonate with them. And being able to have something tangible with the children means a lot. So the story is called When I Was in Your Tummy, but you put baby's name. So when Maila was in your tummy, when Isaiah was in your tummy. And parents can write like they can write like a little, anything at the start, like their own message at the front of the book. And it basically looks at the moments that baby spent in our tummy, the moments after they had left our tummy, and the signs that they show us. So some parents talk about like the butterflies or the flowers or the wind feeling like it's a remembrance of their babies. And it's just a little poem like that.
Oh, and do families, is that mainly for like the parents, or is it used for like children, like parents?
So it started with just that one book, and I did want to have loads more, but I need more funding for that. And it is for everyone. So this particular one, it kind of feels like it's more for mum, but because of the illustrations, and it is a children's book, it's if there are any siblings, because obviously Maila was my firstborn daughter, so for me that would at that point would have just been for me. But now I can share that with my son. And a lot of parents do that as well. But ideally, I would love to grow it to books for dads specifically, for grandparents, for, other members of the family, or just a book where it's a story between the two siblings and how that looks. Yeah. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that's good because, I guess like things like particularly death, it's like really hard to think of how to discuss it with a child in a way that's not going to traumatize them or make them anxious, but to also like, I guess, talk about a moment that affected the family too. Yeah. So having like a tool to do that that touches on like the positive and has like the beautiful like imagery and the poems and the parents' additions to the book too, to like personalize it, is really beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I think we definitely should be talking to children about death. Obviously, it doesn't have to be like this gory monster in the cover type thing. But like, I think when we start speaking about death from a young age, it will actually make us grow up into people that are better at conversing with people about death. Like if somebody's grieving, you'll be a little bit more literate in how you're going to speak to that person, instead of being like, well, at least, you're young and you can have more children. At least they died before they were this age. At least they don't have a disability that they're living with. Literally, I was told this. So it's like, how is that okay? But if we speak about, death is the only guarantee in this life. Like, we're all gonna go through it. Why are we not talking about it more? And I remember Lion King is literally my favorite movie.
It is a really good film.
Yes. And that was my first time, I think, that I can remember anyway, where I encountered death, and I was very taken aback. Like Mufasa's scene, that really hit me. And I remember I saw on Instagram someone saying, these are the movies that I'm never going to show my kid because it's traumatizing. And I was like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. Let's talk about it. Let's actually talk about it. Because now, if it happens that a grandparent dies, you die, or a sibling dies, not saying that that's going to prepare us to how we're going to react when somebody dies. It's not going to make us any stronger, because you shouldn't have to be strong when someone dies. But it's just about feeling like you can talk about it and being open to crying as well. Because even sometimes, especially if we're thinking about men, they have to be strong, they can't cry too much, they'll cry about this amount of time and then the rest of it.
Or they can cry but alone.
Exactly, which happened a lot with my partner. He's like, I don't cry next to you, but this is what happened. And it's like, let's share our emotions. This is a hard thing to deal with. To live without your child. I'm going to now have, it's like a life sentence really. I'm going to live the rest of my life knowing that I had a child, but she's dead, Yeah.
Okay, wow. And I think, I think it's better now than it was before. But I think I've seen a lot more people online and also celebrities talking about grief and the like ebbs and flows. I think there was one celebrity who was saying, I think his sister passed away, and he was saying that he feels like he's a different person, but not better or worse, just different because of what happened. And I think like the more people talk about it, the more people can reflect. Some people might identify and be like, oh, that's the thing that I was feeling but couldn't communicate. You've put it into words like more eloquently than I could, or you've described it in a way that helps me. Like I think I heard on Andrew Garfield talking about grief, and that was really, and it like it was a really good way that he conceptualized it, so that whether someone had experienced grief or not, you could like understand it. And then I don't know, if someone's like, it happened a while ago, like why am I still feeling like this? It's like, no, but you're also grieving the things that you were looking forward to, like the birthdays, the weddings, the graduations and whatever. And sometimes it might hit you, I guess, like, I don't know, at Christmas or like, I don't know, if you're going to the park and you see other people. So like knowing that that's normal and it feels bad, but it's beautiful because you loved them that much. That's true. I thought was like really powerful to hear.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Garfield, the way he speaks about his mom, like you can feel that love, right? So yeah, I agree. It's the love that we had for that person, and for as long as they're not here, that's as long as we'll miss them, and that's just the truth. That is life.
And then you've been really open about how not all parents know about maternity and neonatal voices partnership leads. And not all parents know that they even exist. For anyone who's listening, who's thinking, what is that? Can you explain their role in a simple and real life way?
Sure.
For people who might have seen the acronym MNVPs, that's what it stands for.
I work as an MNVP, Maternity and Neonatal Voices Partnership. I'm the maternity lead side, and it's 1.5 days in the week. And I work for my local hospital. And this is a role that started in 2016 in the NHS. And essentially, MNVPs are parents who have used the service before and are basically the parent voice in the room. So with the heads of midwifery and obstetrics and different teams within the hospital. And we really just take people's lived experiences to shift and change how the service is, to improve the service essentially. So we're always looking for people's voices. We go out into the community and we do listening events. Every week I go to something called, not every week, once a month I do something called Walk the Patch. And that essentially is, I either go into the antenatal clinics or I go to the postnatal clinics after people have literally just given birth and find out how their experience was using the service in general and take that back to the patient experience midwife. And if there's anything that's been really bad, they then get in touch with the family in particular and try to resolve whatever can be resolved. However, my motivation to entering this role has also been the bereavement side, because what I've noticed when it comes to maternity leads, it feels like the main focus is mostly just the maternity experience that goes well. Very rarely are we hearing the voices of parents whose babies have died. And also that is partly because parents might not want to speak, right? It's really difficult to have to be open and talking about the most heartbreaking experience of your life. And that's why I feel like there needs to be a way where we're bridging that gap, where parents can either, whether it's an email, whether you're going, I sometimes go to bereavement clinics and just sit in and listen to the conversation that has been had between the midwives and the parents, and taking in what has gone wrong for that to happen in the first place, and then looking at the aftercare, like what is happening with their aftercare. But I definitely think anyone who is pregnant should know who their maternity lead is, know what's happening in the area. If there's anything that you feel like your education, antenatal classes isn't so great, or you wish that this was taught in more detail, that's literally something that can be used to change the service and improve the service. I think everyone should know. I wish I knew. I didn't even know until until all of this happened, and I started to get more involved in maternity and stuff.
And then you were talking about like hearing people's concerns and then taking it to, I guess, like people who can make a change in the services. How does it feel for the parents, the families, when you come and they know that they're being heard and that their voice is shaping the service?
I think the way it comes across when I'm speaking to parents compared to, let's say, if they were speaking directly to the midwife, the patient experience midwife, I feel like they have that liberty to be as open and as vulnerable with what they're sharing, because they know that this is somebody who also has used the service in the past. They obviously don't know my lived experience, because that's not something that I bring into the role, unless I am speaking to parents who are bereaved, but I don't necessarily have to say that I've experienced the same thing, because it's about listening to them. It's not about myself. But yeah, parents generally feel really good when they have been heard and they feel like their voice is making an impact where it matters. So yeah.
And then from everything you've seen, what does truly compassionate maternity or neonatal care actually look like? Not, I guess, like in guidelines, not in policy, but in like real human moments.
I mean, I think I'm really big on the aftercare, because a lot of the times people, once they leave the hospital, it's like, poof, there's no bridging the gap. It's almost like you're in no man's land and you don't really know what you're doing. And I feel like with people who have living babies, I can't speak for everyone, that experience, generally they'll have a health visitor and they're able to let them know any concerns, not in all cases, because I have heard people saying that they waited ages for the health visitor and then things have gone really badly for them in terms of picking up any infections or anything like that. But when I think about bereaved parents, I can't speak on neonatal because that's not my experience, and I also haven't spoken to many neonatal parents actually, but there is the neonatal lead in the hospital who works alongside me. But with bereaved parents, the lack of continued care, even if it was just at least 3 months of touching base and saying, we're here, these are some resources that we have, is there any concerns that you have? I feel like sometimes you can just be left and that's it. I remember I had the health visitor come to see me, but it felt like she just came to collect my notes. And then she said to me, she's coming back again. She still has not come back. So it's like, and also, I think I messaged, but I can't really remember. I was just in the pits of it. And one of the things that I'm really big on is personalised aftercare plans. And that's something that I've started working on and I would love to pilot in some hospitals. It's very simple. It's like only a 10-page booklet to work through. And only the first 3 pages are actually something to work through. But essentially, it would be the midwives, maybe it's the bereavement midwife, whoever is available, because if my baby was alive, there would be an aftercare plan,
true,
right?
Yeah.
If she's not feeding correctly, somebody's gonna, okay, so this is the times that you're supposed to be feeding her, this is what you're supposed to be doing, the formula, blah, blah, blah. Just because I've left the hospital without a child does not mean that I'm still not postpartum, does not mean that I'm still not, my emotional and mental health is not through the gutter. So with this plan, essentially, it's looking at parents' identities and the things that are important to them and the loss that they've experienced. And then we're matching that with the organizations that exist. So instead of just giving a bunch of leaflets to parents, which most of the time, sometimes we don't even read because it's such a burden, and also leaving the burden of us having to search for our own resources, it then means that people don't do it and then people don't get the help that they actually need. So if somebody was doing that legwork for us and being like, okay, so you're a black woman, okay, there's this charity called Ebony Bond Support. You're a part of the LGBTQ plus community, there's a charity called the Legacy of Leo, and they've got a WhatsApp group. You're Muslim, there's the Muslim Bereavement Support Service. And, you know, knowing that these things exist, even if I said, actually, I don't want them, now I know they're in my face. I might not want it now. 3 years down the line, I might actually want it. So having this plan there in front of me, and these things are so accessible. It's WhatsApp, it's online spaces. There are local communities. What is around locally? And I think it's so important that personalised care exists, because when you think about it, baby loss is isolating already. And sometimes we might go to the usual spaces, like there are charities that are quite big already, and these are the charities that the hospitals usually tell you, and it's usually 2 charities, and they are great, but sometimes when you go to these spaces, you might feel like you're the odd one out, you're the only black person there, and now you're feeling further isolated. Not only are you isolated from your community because you've experienced the loss of your baby, but you're isolated in the community that you're supposed to be feeling solidarity in, because now you're having conversations and saying, well, you know, in as an African, I do this or that, if you want to share any of those things, or these are the things that my family has been saying, and then everyone looks at you and is like, well, my family doesn't say it. You know, obviously people don't do that, right? Yeah. But you can still feel what is it, not subliminal, I'm going to say subliminal. You can feel the undertones sometimes of the conversations. That's why other organisations exist. Ebony Bond Support is an incredible charity for black women. There's the Asian Miscarriage Hub as well. So there's loads of things, and it shouldn't have to be me have to look for those by myself when I'm in my early stages of grief, because I do not have the energy. Yeah. And so if staff should be equipped, actually, they should know all the resources that are out there, especially because they don't have the capacity to do it themselves. So you should be referring me to other things. Did you know that 60% of bereaved parents have complained that they don't get any support, no psychological support from the NHS? That's such a big number, 60% of people. And so there is stuff out there.
Yeah, considering the huge impact that would have like on the immediate family, yes, but then like on the wider family. And
absolutely.
And I guess also like the good thing about the tool you were talking about is that like for some things, yes, the big groups might be handy, but there might be like some nuances that would be good to know. So like, I don't know, like if someone is of a certain faith, there might be like things to consider, things to be done, things they might want to discuss. Like I know people tend to have discussions in the maternity space, but generally around like mental health and faith and things like that. And I guess being able to have those conversations with people who might be of a similar faith or understand like your spirituality and where you're coming from.
Absolutely, I think it's so important. And like you just said as well, in that booklet is stuff for dads as well. So like it looks at the entire family. Siblings, there's charities for siblings as well. Held in Our Hearts is actually based in Scotland. I can't think of the top of my head the charities for children here in the UK. But there's stuff out there. It's just takes somebody doing that step for us and helping us find them.
Yeah, because you're right. Like, and also like a leaflet, I don't know, like sometimes like, I don't know, you'll clear out your bag. And
exactly, yes. There's so many. So many. And especially in maternity, like in when you're pregnant, they give you so many leaflets. And it's like, it's such an overwhelming time. Yeah. You know, and sometimes you do soak through all of them because you do want to know, right, what is what. But when you're bereaved, when your baby's just dying, you're grieving, like, honestly, no.
yeah. And at least to know, like, because especially if they'd filled out the first 3 pages, the healthcare professional would know a bit about you. So it could be like, so you are Asian, like there's this charity and this one, or you're Muslim, you could try, and you're Muslim and you're Asian. So there are these 2 that might be really good for you. You live in Scotland, this one's great. Exactly. Or like you're moving back home to Scotland or whatever, like they could. So that way, when you open the booklet, you're looking for that one. You're not looking through like...
Exactly. Things that are irrelevant, right? And sometimes even with the main charities that they send to you, sometimes they might send you like a link, and now you're going to have to go through the whole page to see something that's relevant to you. Like, no. It's so exhausting. I can't even tell you how much. Like, it's hard.
Yeah, because especially if someone is ready to seek help, you need to make it as smooth and easy as possible, because there's probably like a window. I mean, a scientist will probably know the time, but there's probably like a window where it's like, okay, I've got 3 minutes to find this thing because I'm mentally ready to seek help, and after that it's like, no, I'm good. I'll save it for another day that never comes.
So true. Very true.
And then touching a bit on advocacy, what would you love more families to know about advocating for themselves in like healthcare settings?
I think you can't afford not to be honest. And the difficulty is that I think we've all grown up. Obviously, some people are quite good at this, and kudos to them, man. I wish I was like that. But we've all grown up to see authority as like, they know the answers. I have to be respectful. I'm going to listen. Oh, it's rude if I say this. It's rude if I... No, especially like when it's something as delicate as pregnancy. You need to know the answers, or as much of the answers as you possibly can. So if that question comes, even if you think it's dumb, there's never a dumb question, but if you think it's dumb, just ask anyway. Because we can't, and especially as Black women, like we just can't afford not to, because I just think there's not enough. I just think they don't really care as much, to be honest, and there's not as much research done into the things that happen to our bodies, and not saying that that's the only reason why we lose babies, because we do lose babies due to racism as well. People just don't care and not listen to us. But there are different... preeclampsia is 6 times more likely to happen to Black women, right? I didn't even know what it was. So advocating for yourself is so important when you're feeling things. Like, for example, I had the headache and the swelling, and I never asked questions. I had the protein, actually, and that's the thing. I had protein in my urine, which is usually a sign of preeclampsia. And I'd asked, what is this? And they just sort of brushed it off and said, oh, just do another test. When really, I should have put my foot down and said, what does this mean? What, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess, like, hindsight is the thing.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
And I guess that's the power of, like, people sharing their story. So now, like, I don't know, if someone's listening to the podcast and when they get pregnant, they have protein in their urine, they can be like, oh, I heard Helena say, this is something I need to look out for.
And actually, another point on advocacy, there's an incredible woman called Aisha. She's childless without choice is what the title that she uses, because she's experienced a lot of fertility difficulties, a lot of losses, and adenomyosis and endometriosis. And one thing she said for me is, like, even when it comes to advocacy, sometimes you can advocate so much and still you're not even listened to. And she's a massive advocate. That woman has an incredible voice. And she said she's been speaking about her pain, her period pain, since she was 17. And no one looked into it until she was like in her 30s, I think. So, you know, so many of the things that she'd experienced later could have been avoided if she was listened to.
Yeah.
And my cousin at the moment, she's going through... Oh, let me just move this. My cousin at the moment is going through the same sort of situation, not being listened to. And that's really hard. And I said to her, make sure that you're recording. Take your phone and literally record the conversations that you're having with them. And just keep badgering, like... Badgering? Is that what
badgering, yeah.
Keep badgering them.
Yeah. No, it's true, though, because... I heard someone say that they were talking to their doctor, their GP, about their heavy periods. And they were like, oh, people have heavy periods, blah, blah, blah. So they, like, took a photo of, like, their blood clot. I guess, like, what you were saying, like, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to push back. Like, it might be that, like, the doctor sort of was like, oh, okay, no, it's normal, like, that happened. And everything was fine. Or it could be no, but, like... it's best to still push because it is your body and you do know it best.
Absolutely.
And you know what normal feels like. I really like recently, like on the subject of periods, that a lot more people are coming out saying like, no, really painful periods are not normal.
It's not. Absolutely.
And we've been made to believe that they are normal.
It's so bad.
It's not normal.
Yeah. And when you come to think about it, right, from periods to fertility to pregnancy to baby loss to menopause, all of these women's issues are so under-researched. They're so... they don't care for it as much, and there's just not much support. Why are we not listening to women when they are saying that they are in pain?
Yeah.
Why are we not support? Like, it just doesn't make sense. We know more about the ocean at this point than we do women's bodies. Like, come on, take care of the women. Yeah. I mean, I went, my family live in Portugal, that's where I was born, and I remember, like, we were just having a chat, and my cousin, my auntie must have said, oh yeah, she's 17, and she's like, yeah, she has really painful periods, and she just said it so blasé, and I was like, no, you need to look into that, because it shouldn't be so painful, it shouldn't be debilitating, it shouldn't be hurting your back, you shouldn't be lying with that, like, throwing up and things like that, like, that is a serious health condition, but then it's not being treated as such.
Yeah. I think there's a lot more campaigns now for, like, especially workplaces, supporting staff who will need, like, time off.
Yeah.
And for it to not come out of your, like, sick leave stuff. Like, this isn't a cold. This is, like, an extraordinary...
This my body happened, like, I don't even have control over this.
Yeah, there's no, like, vitamin C to, like, prevent it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there will be people who will be taking, like, very strong painkillers, and it will still be causing them pain. So yeah, just to be like, for workplaces to be mindful of that and not to dismiss it as, like, skiving or whatever.
Yeah, and then it just makes you think, because a lot of the leaders are male, because they don't go through these experiences, that's why it's so belittled, like, you don't know the experience.
Yeah.
And that actually reminds me of my job when I was working. I used to be a recruiter, and I remember, like, I experienced, I lost Maila, and then I became pregnant very soon after. And I remember feeling so bad, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to tell them that I'm pregnant again? This is so bad. And, like, I was afraid to speak to my manager because I didn't know how he would, take it. Like, maybe he would make light of it and be like, oh, you just had... Obviously, he wouldn't say you just had a baby, but I don't know, find something. And so I decided to call the other female manager. And I spoke to her, and she was like, do you know what? Like, this is your life at the end of the day. Like, you should be allowed to do what you want. But then, when I finally came back to work, my manager was so compassionate because he had experienced the loss and I didn't know. Oh. And actually, he's got a tattoo of his baby's footsteps, Rosie.
Oh, wow.
And I never noticed. All of these years, I never noticed. He didn't speak about it, but also, because how are you going to speak about it? We don't really make room for that conversation. So he was very, very compassionate, even more so than the lady, because when I'd come back, I had no conversation with her about, like, my return or, like, how are things, or just to see, I've now come back since losing a child. Yeah. You should still speak to people. Yeah,
and I guess it also goes to show that, like, sometimes you're not champion, but, like, people who connect with you or can be your supporter might come from, like, a place you didn't expect.
Exactly, it's true, definitely.
Because I guess, like you were saying, we don't know everyone's story, we don't know everyone's journey.
Yeah.
There could be someone who's, I don't know, partner, sibling, experienced a loss, and they were like, oh, okay, this is what she went through, and this is what I didn't like. So I'm going to make sure you don't go through it because I knew what she was looking for.
So true.
Or looking for from her manager, or looking for from her friends.
Yeah, so true. I agree.
And then what's one thing you wish, or maybe, like, a few things you wish that like healthcare professionals, like staff on the wards, knew?
I think language, actually, how you're speaking to people. I know that a lot of people tend to get in their heads of, like, I don't know what to say, like, I'm going to say the wrong things. But really and truly, like, first of all, be present. That's the first thing that you should be doing, because from the moment you're in your head, like, afraid, that's when things will probably go wrong or could go wrong, because maybe you're too silent and not saying anything at all and just getting on with work because you don't want to be disrespectful. But for the person on the other side, that might be seeing as like, oh, this person is cold, they're not being warm, they're not showing me human connection, that they care. Obviously, for some people, they actually don't want people to be faffing around all over them. But I think what is important then within that is still speaking. Like, what would you, is it okay if I'm in the room here with you? Would you like me to stay silent? Like actually talking about naming what's present, and just taking the parents' lead as well, right? And there's nothing that you can say that's going to fix the situation. So don't look for a silver lining. Don't look for a way to fix it, because that's when you do end up saying the wrong things. Like one of my midwives was like, "Oh, don't worry, soon you'll have a house full of children." And I was just like, "Girl, what?" Obviously, at that moment, I was so detached that I was just like, but it's like, how do you know that I'm going to have a house full of children? Because I thought I was going to take this baby home in the first place and this happened. How do you know that won't happen again? Secondary infertility is a real thing that happens to a lot of people. How do you know that I can get pregnant well, that's literally what I just said. But essentially, yeah, you're taking away the moment.
Or that you want to.
Yeah, or that I want. True, because I didn't actually. In that moment, I said, I do not want any more children. I don't understand how women do this. Some women go through many losses. I don't understand how I could have done that again, right? And then I ended up having my son. But yeah, I was definitely in that headspace where it's like, I don't want to do this again.
And I think the advice about sitting in the room is really powerful, because people may not want like a hug, they may not want a conversation, but they might just not want to be alone.
Exactly.
So if you're sat there and they can like cry or sit in silence, then at least like they know that in that moment they aren't alone.
Yeah, it's so true. Like being present is very important. And there are definitely things that you should, I've got a whole list of things of not to say, but things that you could say is anything that is parent-centered and baby-centered. Especially like for me, where I had detached from my daughter, even if somebody had just made a passing comment, "Oh, she has so much hair, look how beautiful she is." That could have actually been like, "Oh, I actually want to see her. I actually do want to hold her," right? So using those moments for that, it's okay to do that. And if parents don't want it, then they may say no. And I think it's just about communication, and absolutely yes, sitting in with the silence as well is part of it.
Yeah. And then for like our final set of questions, for parents who may be feeling unheard, overwhelmed, or unsure about where to turn to, what would you want them to know about their voice, and what gives you hope for a future of maternity and neonatal care?
Yeah. I think when it comes to using parents' voices, it's about finding solidarity in spaces that you can relate to. I think that's the first step. And even if it means that we're sitting in a circle and now you found your voice by saying something that's related to your experience in that moment, that is such a great way for you to release, because you shouldn't have to carry this by yourself. Like, especially there's a saying that people say that grief should be witnessed. And so I think that's quite important to be able to be witnessed. And even if your experience isn't necessarily grief, again, finding a group of mums who might be going through the same thing that you're going through. And then if you want to take your voice further, but you don't know how to, connecting with things such as your MNVPs or any charities or organizations that do advocacy, and contacting them and asking for advice, I think is great. What was your other question? Sorry.
No, I think you touched on it. So yeah, what would you want people to know about their voice?
It matters. Simple as that. And there's never too many voices. I think sometimes people think, I don't know, people think that their voice doesn't count, or maybe because, my experience wasn't that bad. Some people even, when they have early losses, they denounce their experience because it wasn't that bad. We shouldn't be comparing, to be very honest. Like, why are we comparing the most awful experience? It was an awful experience to you, and that is enough, and that counts, and that matters. And so, yeah, you should still have a seat at the table, in whatever table that is, to speak about your experience. And it doesn't matter how many other people are saying the same thing, you can also join that, because every voice counts. And the more voices is better. Yeah. Right? It shouldn't just be one person talking about their experience. Everyone should be able to add to that.
Yeah, so true. And then I know that you're very passionate. You've got a lot of things going on, and you're doing them very well. But what keeps you going on the hard days?
just Maila, to be honest. And also the babies and parents that I've now connected with, remembering their babies and keeping their babies' legacy alive, definitely that. But Maila keeps me up. It's that thing that I was saying to you where it's like, this is how I get to parent her. So, yeah. I've started many things in my life, actually, and it always gets to that point where it's like, oh, God, I don't like this anymore, or burnout or whatever. So I'm trying my best to make sure that I'm having systems in place that allow for my work to be easy and not lead to things such as burnout. And so, yeah.
And then one final question. What does motherhood mean to you?
Oh, it's all right. Okay. Wow. Okay, well, I guess for me, motherhood is like an in-between space because I'm parenting here, my son, and I've also got my daughter. So it's quite a difficult balance to make sense of. And I'm trying to do right by both of them, which I think is a very big, I think that's one of the things that's like looming at the top of my head, like how present am I with my son and how present am I with my daughter as well. That's something that is always weighing on my head. So I don't know if that's what motherhood means to me, and I think actually when you really think about it, it is that it's like a balancing act, like of the plates. Because if I had 2 living children here, it would still be like, am I doing enough for each of them? And for people that have more than 2 children, like how are you showing up for all of them? How are they all feeling the love? I know, like when it's like the middle child sometimes feels like, is it the middle child or the third child? One of them.
Oh yeah, the middle one. Because like there's the baby and there's the older one that like, I think the older one's supposed to be like the one that's like the one that they read all the books to and they were like strict on sugar, and then the second one they relaxed. And then like the last one is like this is the last one, and like
exactly.
we've got to like soak up every moment, and then the middle one is kind of like I'm fine.
I'll just do this by myself, I guess. So yeah, it's a balancing act, I think. Yeah.
And then, just to say thank you, Helena, for sharing your heart, for sharing your story and your journey and the work that you're doing today that carries on Maila's legacy. And conversations like this are really important because they remind us that care is not just about systems, it's about humanity, it's about people, it's about families, their stories, their journeys and their voices. And even though... whether we know someone who's experienced loss or not, people on the tube, people on the bus, people in your workplace like you were talking about, your colleague would have. And having more conversations like this means that we can be a better support to people around us. And also to, I guess, break the taboos around it. So it's not that like you never talk about Maila again, because through her you're supporting so many other families, which is like a beautiful thing to do. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. It's such a pleasure.